I ran out of time, so I only ran 6 miles, but I was ready to run 10 miles this morning. And folks, it's the food crops are being grown on soils that are almost totally depleted. And I had all these different doctors and scientists on that kept promoting that you don't need 70-something minerals, you need 90-plus. Trace elements, you need higher dosages of these different vitamins. Well, they've got it. Everything you need, the Tangy Tangerine, and you can turbo boost it with Rebound, Citrus Punch. Pollen Burst is amazing. Instead of drinking coffee in the afternoon, I'll drink that. Just incredible with all the B vitamins. And when you get it from InfoWarsTeam.com, you not only get discounts like free shipping on qualifying orders, but you also support this transmission. You can also sign up as distributors at InfoWarsTeam.com, and you can get big discounts there and get wholesale prices. So there's videos there with Dr. Wallach, with pharmacist Ben Fuchs, with Dr. Corey Gold. It's all there at InfoWarsTeam.com. And there's also a phone number there on the side if you want to call and order or ask any questions or get involved in that. There's also training sessions that happen every week there in the training and resource section, and there's archives of all those. So it's also a great business opportunity, but for me, that's a side issue. If you just start trying it, it will blow you away because you won't be as hungry. I mean, last night, I was up at about midnight posting a video on Infowars.com, and I'd already eaten at about 6 o'clock. And I was a little bit hungry. Wanted that midnight snack. I just went and had a little half a dose of Tangy Tangerine because I don't take a full one or you can't sleep. Even though Tangy Tangerine doesn't have any caffeine or ginseng in it, like Pollen Burst, still you can't sleep. I can't if you take a full dose. I took almost a half dose with some water. Boom! No longer hungry because my body's like, wow, give me more of that. So again, check it out today, InfoWarsTeam.com. Okay, going to our guest, we posted the video, and it was seen by hundreds of thousands of people that our reporter shot in the airport on just his iPhone. That was Patrick Henningsen. Jeffrey Lewis is a member of the National Speakers Association, the Amputee Coalition of America, a certified peer visitor, and is a co-facilitator of Lively Limbs Amputee Support Group in East Mesa, Arizona. And he's a nice guy. You know, he's a really talented, interesting guy in the videos I've seen. He goes and speaks to students and really, empowers them and understand that sometimes you don't know how good life is until you do get into adversity. Sometimes, who was it? Victor Hugo, the French philosopher and statesman, who said that adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. I'll tell you, some of the best things ever happened in my life were adversity. I don't get into those stories, but nothing like his adversity. Got an infection and lost his limbs. I want him to talk about that. And in fact, before we get into the bad stuff with the TSA, I'd like to have him up sometime for a full hour. We have limited time today. Tell us about yourself a little bit, Jeff. And then I know you want to be nice and not get after the TSA and saying they're doing their job, but the politicians are out of control. This isn't keeping us safe. It's training our kids that pedophiles can touch them. The psychologists are on record. When the state of Texas tried to ban it, the feds threatened a blockade of our airspace. So I know you're like, before you came on, you're like, I just don't want to bash the TSA. They're doing their job, but this is out of control. So first, tell us about yourself and then what you're going through when you fly all the time to speak around the country.
Hi, Alex. Thank you for inviting me on your show. My wife is here also, and she's part of this, my story also. In fact, she's the biggest hero of all in this whole thing. So if you need her to chime in, just let me know. I was shot in the back in 1985. And lost my spleen, and that's actually what caused the loss of my limbs. Because your spleen captures encapsulated bacteria, I contacted Strep B in 2005, and because I had no spleen to fight it off, it developed into sepsis, and then what's called DIC, which is your body's miracle that saves blood for your heart and your brain and your lungs, by cutting off the blood supply to things that are unnecessary. And in that case, it was my hands and my feet. And I almost lost my nose and my ears. And I woke up in a hospital after being in a coma for 3 weeks with no hands and no feet. And everything else was described to me. But before that, I had been perfectly healthy. I'd only been sick one day in my life, or for that period of my life, and boy, that was a doozy.
And since then, you are a motivational speaker. Kind of encapsulate what you do there.
Well, I kind of stumbled into that. People had started inviting me to just come tell my story. To be honest with you, before this happened to me, nobody cared much about what I had to say. Even my students now my wife and I have literally been all over the country just to share our story, and we love it. We just love to get out and say life goes on. Basically, my story is if you fall down, get back up. Don't complain about the things you don't have. Celebrate the things you do have. And I'm surrounded by heroes and wonderful people. I golf, I bowl, I run, and I'm dance with my wife, and I'm just leading a fantastic life.
Well, my father, his dad was in World War II and flew bombers, but then after he flew his 22 missions, he was on the ground in Italy, and he saw a lot of kids with arms and legs blown off. And my dad, every once in a while, would complain, wanting some new shoes or whatever, not wanting to go milk the cows at 4:30 in the morning. And he would say, to my dad, I saw a man, who was complaining that he had no shoes until he saw a man who had no feet. And, I mean, I guess that parable certainly fits in your story. How did it change your outlook on life, losing both your arms and legs?
Actually, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have my hands and feet back. But I'm actually enjoying life more right now. I mean, there's so many fantastic people out there that I've met and that I've helped and that have helped me. And I don't know who it was, Sigmund Freud or whoever, but there's no better feeling in this world than to help someone else. That's the good feeling in life. And you were talking about your parents. My parents were very, very instrumental in my attitude. My dad was on board the USS Oklahoma in Pearl Harbor when the Japanese came in. He was a musician and was actually leading the band in the national anthem. My mom was a rheumatoid arthritic, as crippled up as you could possibly be with it. But if you ever talked to her on the phone, she would never complain. And she'd say, "How you feeling today?" And she'd say, "Oh, I hurt a little bit." That's about as much complaining as she would do. So my family isn't a complaining family. And we get up, we brush ourselves off, and we get right back in the batter's box again.
Well, that's what, not just the American way, that's the human way. And, the globalists want to make us all a bunch of victims so they can control us, and they're not there trying to give us a hand up. They actually want to cut our legs off and give us a pair of crutches. No pun intended there, sir. Look, I know you don't want to sit here and bash on people, but it's got to be done. I was on a TV show last week, and they were going after the TSA people, and I said, how about the politicians? And since Obama's gotten in office, and I'm just giving credit where it's due, that's where all the groping and everything is accelerated, and he could stop it. And the idea that we're just going to blame the TSA, I mean, I get that. That's wrong. And I tend to do that myself because that's where the rubber meets the road. But what you're going through, flying every week or so to go on speaking engagements, and they know you, and they put you through all this, and I see it with other people, 95-year-old women going home to die with cancer, trying to make them get out of wheelchairs, stripping them. I mean, this isn't, I'd rather have terrorists blow a bunch of stuff up than live like this. And since when did Americans say, take all my liberty to keep me safe?
I think I agree with you on that. It wouldn't bother me so much if everybody didn't know me on a first-name basis. We walk up to the gate, and they say, "Hey, Jeff, where are you going today?" And then as soon as I get on the other side of that metal detector, here comes the guy with the rubber gloves. And the smile's gone, and he says, "All right, I want to know who approached you. Was it Tattaglia or Barsini?" And it just bugs me every time. They have to assume that I've changed since the last time they went over me. I have to fill out so much personal information to even buy my tickets. Can't they just check that out and pull me aside if a flag goes up? I just don't understand why every time I have to get the full once-over.
Well, this is guilty until proven innocent. And it's overthrowing our common law and constitutional system. The idea that you're all guilty and we're going to put you through this, and we know there's nothing in your background. You're already run through the check, but now we're going to do this to you. And now the TSA is actually expanding out onto the roads of America.
And how have my prosthetics changed since the last time you swabbed me over and felt me up? Nothing's changed. The only possible thing is if someone would have gotten to me and paid me off. I mean, that's an awful big jump right there. That's the only possible way that I would be any different the next time I go to the airport. If someone bribed me and talked me into blowing up a plane, then that's not going to happen.
Incredible. Well, also, notice what zero tolerance in school does. I've seen this like 20 times because it keeps happening over the last decade, where it's career day, and it's always somebody's dad is in the military or they're a police officer. It's always the same. And they say, you know, draw a picture in art class of your parents and what they do. I remember doing that. And they draw their dad who's in the Marines, or they draw, you know, their mom or whoever is a police officer with a gun, and they arrest them or kick them out of school. And they go, well, it's zero tolerance, where the teachers aren't able to make their own decisions. It's a default. And they want that mindless, robotic following orders. And that's what TSA is about. They know you're not a terrorist. They know you. They meet you every week. So it's this idea of, we're not going to violate just one group's right. We're going to violate everybody, and that makes it fair.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was a teacher for 30 years, and there's certain things that I did because I was told to do, but there's also certain things that I refused to do. When common sense has to take place someplace along the line.
So where do you go from here?
What do you mean, traveling or with my life?
With the TSA, yes.
I'm just going to comply. I'm not going to make waves about it. I hope they don't think I'm jumping on them. There's only one time that I really became angry with them, and they had given me the full check over and let me go. And so I went to my gate, and they hunted me down and brought me all the way back, saying they needed to check some more things out. And they made me take each prosthetic on every limb, turning it a quarter of a turn so they could X-ray it again. And I almost missed my flight because of that. And the guy that was doing it was really obnoxious. But 99 out of 100 TSA people I've dealt with have been very apologetic, very nice, and most of them have encouraged me to fill out a complaint card.
Well, that's what happens to me. I fly some, and they either want my autograph and say, look, it's just a job. We're trying to unionize and change this. But other times, I've had them get in my face and go, this is Alex Jones. He's a troublemaker. And I'm like, you're actually in America trying to intimidate me now. You don't intimidate me with your so-called authority. You ought to be ashamed of the misuse of power. And I understand you fly a lot and you love helping people with your story. But the fact that you're wanting to, hey, I hope they don't come after me. I hope they let me fly, because I'm speaking about them. Bro, this is America. And tell us what you really think about it.
Well, I feel offended, and I feel my freedoms have been jeopardized because of this. But I'm not blaming the TSA individuals. I believe they are told from the higher-ups to do what they're doing.
Of course they are. Yeah, they're not allowed to have any discretion.
And if they don't do it, they'll hire someone in their place who will. So it's like the I hate to make this strong of a comparison, but it's like Nazi Germany. It's my superior officers told me to do this, and if I don't do it, then I'm done. I'm up to the Russian front.
Well, you're right. In the Russian front, boy, that was not fun. But that's where appeasing the system ends up, that finally when you're forced to say no, it's off to the Russian front. We need to say no now before stuff gets really, really bad.